Hey there, I'm Tammy Davis, and if you happen to watch my videos more than just this one, you probably would have noticed there's another one with this exact same outfit on, and that's because I did 2 videos in one day, which is not common for me. However, I've got a lot going on right now, and it was something that I felt needed to be addressed. I'm actually writing a blog post on it, and I thought, well, I want to say something visually too, because I don't know how much I can capture with words. And the topic of the blog is actually in relation to my upcoming newsletter, which is all about vitamin D. And it seems like the appropriate season to be talking about vitamin D as we come into late spring and early summer. That said, part of the challenges that we face through our epigenetics, and this is where the population, or the popularity rather, of MTHFR, methylation pathway, methylated nutraceuticals, epigenome, these are all words that are being frequently used because of our understanding how the methylation pathway, the genes, if you will, actually activate and deactivate themselves as needed. Now, that's not the message that's being conveyed. The message that comes out and the way it's being interpreted by a lot of people is that there's something seriously wrong with the body. We have these little boxes that have, green squares, and we have yellow squares, and we have red squares. And of course, visually, we understand green, yellow, red to mean go, caution, and stop. It's like red is always the color of warning, danger, and so we have this already programmed into our mind. So when we look at these color boxes, we see the green, and that means, hey, everything's good, and we see the red, and we're like, ooh, shit. The fact is that these tests aren't actually demonstrating which ones are dysfunctional. They may show you which ones are inactive, I should say that have been deactivated, but that doesn't mean that they can't be reactivated. The body's constantly switching itself off and on according to the systemic needs. So these green, yellow, and red boxes are messing with a lot of people. And like I said, they don't necessarily tell you which ones are causing problems in your body and which ones are not. The green, if it's green, it does not mean that that's not linked to an issue. It's very possible to have an active gene that's not supposed to be active at the point, because like I said, they switch themselves off and on. So, and again, this is with good reason. If you watch the video that I did prior to this, that's the result of signaling molecules. Yes, there's more than we care to have in our environment, but nonetheless, there is a way to overcome that. So that said, that's part of what is being discussed in this newsletter on vitamin D, and it includes the way our genes and receptors are basically closed off or deactivated. And again, I want to preface this by saying we don't necessarily know which ones are actually directly linked to the problems in our body. We just get a picture basically of where everything stands in that moment. That's not a constant. Our system is constantly changing through the introduction of information, which could be through your diet, could be through body care products, could be the essential oils that you might be using, could be chemicals that you smell out in the air, or even ones that you don't smell in the air. Anything can really affect our system. Even our own hormones do that. So, but the challenge that I'm up against, or I shouldn't say I think we're all up against, is this idea of being real and closing ourselves off to what's uncomfortable, closing ourselves off to what we deem unacceptable. All of these judgments that we have about ourselves and it interferes with our ability to be real. Like I said, this is the blog post that I'm currently writing about. But it's interesting to me because what I know is that when we're not real, when we're not being our genuine and authentic selves, when we mask our negative feelings with a false sense of positivity, we're not doing ourselves any good. I mean, we might think we are, we might, we want to believe that we are, but unless you actually feel it, and this is something I've talked about before, feeling something, like that solid yes or that solid no, that just real, like there's just nothing going to move it. You just feel it. That's when you know it's genuine. But if you are facing, financial setbacks, or you're facing health issues, and you try to pretend like you're okay and that everything's going to be good, these affirmations that we come up with. I'm not a big believer in affirmations unless you feel it. If you can't feel it, gratitude is great unless you don't feel it, because the bottom line is you're lying to yourself. And so no matter how much you think you're doing yourself a favor, your system actually knows that you're lying. And think about what happens when you know someone's lying to you and you can't prove it, because it's your word against theirs. And if you were to say, hey, and call them out on it, they can deny it. And they'll deny it until they're blue in the face. And it's maddening at the very least. It's stressful, is another way I will say it. And so this is what's going on when we pretend to be something that we're not, when we step away from our true authentic selves and we put on this false bravado of being someone or something that we're not, or trying to convince ourselves that something is better than it is. There are ways to do it. That could be an entirely different video on how to get to the point of actually realizing that even though that you're in a financial situation that's just not optimal for you, you could at least acknowledge the fact that you're thankful that your needs are being taken care of. Being appreciative. This is where gratitude comes in, because when you can feel that lightness within, there's not as much stress in the system. And this comes, actually, believe it or not, comes back to the genetics, because if we're blocking ourselves from being real, it's the best way to know how to put it. When we're blocking ourselves from being that, we're creating stress. And it's hard to predict exactly how your body is going to respond to that stress signal. But there again, stress, what it does is it triggers a series of events within the system that will begin to activate and deactivate various genetic receptors. And this is the mechanism of action of medications. So, and I'm not just saying stress does it. There's a whole host of reasons. The truth is that our body is constantly adapting. So our system is constantly going through changes. And if we are intentionally or unintentionally lying to ourselves and creating a mental stress, even though we're not aware of it, think about the signals you're sending to your body. Think about just how much control you actually have over your epigenome, your methylation pathway, however you want to phrase it. Think about just that slight difference in being real. So, like, if you're pissed and you're mad about your financial situation, you're better off getting mad about that financial situation in a constructive way, whether it be through writing a letter to someone, beating the fool out of a pillow, sitting in your car and screaming, whatever that takes to release the anger. You're better off doing that than putting on this false face and going about your day. And a false face, not just with other people, because look, I get it. You can't have a temper tantrum in front of a bunch of people that you don't know, or for that matter, in front of people you do know. But in the safety and privacy of your own space and bubble, you can absolutely have whatever meltdown you need to have to release the emotions, because at that point you're actually acknowledging yourself. You're letting yourself be real. That's not to say that you don't want to put your big girl panties on or your big boy boxers on and take off and go out to the world again. But it's really acknowledging yourself where you are. So there's like I said, there is the active gratitude or appreciation for what you actually do have. And there is the acknowledgement as to how you really do feel. And, if the rest of your group is bubbly and giggly and you just feel kind of like just sitting there with a smile on your face, but you just don't feel like doing anything else, it's okay. Because, like I said, when we dishonor ourselves, we're sending out a stress signal. And that alone is going to send indicators throughout the system that there's something happening that's not safe. That's not in your best interest. And so the chemistry becomes changed. And so I'm just imagining what we're actually doing to our genes and receptors by blocking that real aspect of ourselves. Granted, there's a lot of stuff that's happening to us that we don't even know, mentally, emotionally, environmentally. There's just a lot of stuff happening. But the one thing you absolutely do have control over is how you not only think about things, but how you talk to yourself and what you're actually allowing yourself to feel. You have control over that. You don't have to pretend with yourself. And the more real you are with yourself, the more genuinely your body can take care of you. On that note, I think about all of the artificial foods, colors, additives, chemicals that we're, using. Just think about those. And, if we're telling our body we don't need the real thing, then it's going to, why is that receptor going to be open, right? Why is it going to be on if it doesn't really need it? And I can go into a whole list of things, but I'm just going to just put that out there that it's really, I think it's time to be real on all levels. This isn't 100%, organic, all natural diet. We have some really fun things that would be, a delight to have every once in a while. There's nothing wrong with that. You get your body in shape on the inside, like I spoke about in my last video, which is really assisting your system to sustain itself. Not doing the work for it, but actually training it to do it for you. And in that case, when you're able to do that, it's better equipped to take in the things that aren't necessarily natural. So the more real we are with ourselves and the more we allow ourselves to function at the level that feels good for us, the better equipped our body is going to be to actually deal with the true threats. Otherwise, we're really facing a lot of artificial, I guess the word I'm going to reuse is threat. We are facing a lot of artificial threats that don't necessarily exist. And they're just made up in our own minds because we worry so much. And so I'm asking you to stop worrying about what other people may think about your moods and emotions. Your moods and emotions are yours. They're there for a reason, and you have good reason for them. It doesn't mean they're going to linger forever, and it doesn't mean that you aren't equipped to be able to deal with them. But the more we don't address them in the moment, the longer it takes for our body to actually recover from that. So I'm going to finish this up in my blog post, but I just really wanted to put that out there, and maybe we can begin a discussion along these lines, because I'm seeing so many people facing what's considered mental health issues when I have to wonder, is it really mental health issues, or is it just a different way of operating, kind of like autism? I get it that there's some significant alterations that occur, but in my opinion, and from what I've seen, the longer we are in chronic overload or we are in chronic dysfunction genetically, the the greater the toxic level, and therefore you're going to begin to see some symptoms that are unfavorable. And this is what's warranting medication. But if we could actually begin to allow ourselves and our children and encourage our children to be real from the very beginning and not put on this false face, I think we're going to see, I think we really would see a change in the future of our health. At least that would be the foundation. There's a lot more to this, but that was something I wanted to introduce. So look forward to hearing from you. Hope you guys are having a really great day, and I'll chat with you soon. Bye.